Welcome back to the news at 10. Nigeria needs to address the gaps in its regulatory institutions if it hopes to become one of the top 20 economies by the year 2020. Well, this is the position of the Managing Director of the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Limited, Mr. Babs Omotowa, at a conference for federal regulatory and intervention agencies in Abuja. Mr. Omotowa listed duplication of agencies and obsolete laws as some of the factors making it difficult for Nigeria to benefit economically from regulations and standards.
Experts and regulators from different agencies of government and the private sector at a conference on the impact of regulatory agencies on the economic development of Nigeria. Speakers at the occasion call for proper regulations because an ineffective regulatory industry will only continue to stifle the economy rather than make it better.
As regulators and key agencies of government, you must be able to actually promote best practices in the sectors that you actually regulate. You must also take a clear position in terms of driving reform, compliance, and ensuring effective monitoring.
Lending his voice, the Managing Director of the Nigerian LNG Limited, Mr. Babs Omotowa, listed many challenges that comes with regulations in Nigeria. He says Nigeria needs to shape up to maximize the economic benefits of regulation, which is a critical component of its economic advancement.
The multiplicity of fees, levies, charges, and the penchant for fee collection of being a higher importance to regulators is creating an environment that is not enabling businesses. So all these do not augur well for business environments and for a country that wishes to grow to the top 20 economies in the world. We need to ensure that we address some of these issues.
He also made a case for the passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill, which is a key regulatory law that will further unlock and maximize the economic benefits of the oil and gas sector.
One of the biggest challenges in the industry, especially for the growth and expansion, as I mentioned earlier, is the regulatory uncertainty, of which the Petroleum Industry Bill is a major one. This is key and has long been overdue, and has led to investments worth over $60 to $100 billion being withheld due to the delay in passing the bill. I hope that the National Assembly is able to progress this bill sooner than later so that we can modernize the industry and drive the investment and creation of jobs and local capacity.
Going forward, experts at this event share the view that there is a need to stop the establishment of agencies with overlapping responsibilities, while existing agencies need to be streamlined and strengthened to ensure that Nigeria benefits from regulations. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
First Bank.
Hello everyone, welcome to Business News Tonight. I'm Loretta Chiogo. The federal government has rolled out its first 10,000 mortgages for affordable homes scheme. This is part of government's efforts to bridge the housing deficit in Nigeria. The scheme is private sector driven and implemented in partnership with 15 pilot states and the Central Bank of Nigeria, supported by the World Bank and the African Development Bank. Correspondent Linda Higbe reports.
Ask any Nigerian on the street what their top 3 worries are. Housing is likely to be one of them. The World Bank reported that Nigeria has a 17 million housing deficit and requires 59.5 trillion naira to bridge this deficit. This is a huge figure, bearing in mind that the country's 2014 budget is just 4.962 trillion naira. The federal government is seeking to bridge this gap with the launch of its first 10,000 mortgages for affordable homes scheme. The scheme is intended to help Nigerians have access to affordable housing by applying for mortgages in large numbers. For the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, this scheme is the beginning of the housing revolution in Nigeria.
So today we are kicking off the pre-qualification of people for the first initial 10,000 mortgages to be provided by lenders, most of whom are present here with us. They will now be able to process and provide many more mortgages because of the existence of the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Corporation.
Delivery of affordable housing in Nigeria is also receiving necessary impetus through addressing the issues in land administration and management aimed at ensuring that landowners have secure titles and bankable assets.
Between now and December 31st, 2014, we will be delivering houses and mortgages of 6,705 since 16th of January 2014.
The Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, assured Nigerians that due to new mortgage underwriting standards as prescribed by the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Corporation, the processing time for pre-qualification has reduced from the usual 6 to 9 months to 3 to 6 weeks. She, however, said this will be subject to the level of risk analysis to be undertaken by the mortgage lender. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Owando PLC has officially announced its acquisition of the Nigerian upstream oil and gas business of ConocoPhillips for $1.5 billion. The Chief Executive Officer of Owando Energy Resources, Mr. Akpade Durotoye, said the acquisition was fully funded by a combination of equity and debt with a 50-50 ratio. Mr. Durotoye said that with 6 oil fields, 12 production stations, 3 gas plant facilities, and a 1,490-kilometer pipeline network accruing from the acquisition, production has risen to about 45,000 to 50,000 barrels per day.
We started in the oil business. Our first E&P license in the Owando portfolio was in 2004. And since then, we built up a portfolio of exploration assets. And at some point, it was clear to us that we would need to have a portfolio that was wider based with production and near-term development and growth assets. And the way we saw that was we were fortunate that at the same time in Nigeria, there was a migration of the international oil companies from the land, swamp, and shallow water producing assets to the deep water and sometimes out of the country. And so we've been playing in the divestments, and this one was one we identified a long time ago, and we created a strategy well in advance of when the sellers came into the market. We identified this as the structure that we wanted. It fitted our culture, it fitted our balance sheet, it fitted what we wanted to do, and we went for it. This was a unique transaction on many fronts. The first is the size of it. We've had the transaction payment of $1.5 billion. We've paid $1.5 billion to ConocoPhillips. To raise that kind of financing in an environment using the structures that we used is intense. Is an intensive process, and that is what has one of the reasons that it's taken this long. The other reason why it took a while was the governments themselves had to get comfortable with the structure. This was innovative in a lot of ways for the government of Nigeria, a big portfolio of assets that ranged from the onshore to the offshore. None of the other divestees have bought that kind of portfolio before. And therefore the due diligence from the government, from the DPR, was also very, very extensive.
Now, key indicators at the Nigeria Stock Exchange reversed the previous day's gains as the all-share index dropped by 0.64% to close at 42,097.49. Let's get the details of trading today from Bolaji Akinwale.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Trading activities at the Nigeria Stock Exchange reversed the previous day's gains. The key index dropped by 0.64% to close at 42,097.49. Now, the slide in the share prices of highly capitalized stocks was identified as the reason for the drop in the key index. Dangote Cement shared 3 naira 94 kobo, while Guinness lost 2 naira 30 kobo. On the advances list, Filthy Oil gained the highest with 7 naira, ahead of 7-Up with 6 naira 97 kobo, and Nigeria Brewers, which added 1 naira 5 kobo to its share price. Bank stocks topped the activity chart as Access Bank and UBA emerged as the most traded stocks. Transcorp is also in that category. At the end of the session, over 6.912 billion naira was exchanged for 354.9 million shares in 6,248 deals. That's a quick check of the day's figures. I am Bolaji Akinwale.
Thank you, Bolaji. And of course, that's it on Business News. We'll leave you with global market figures now. I'm Loretta Chiogo.
First Bank.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Blessing Okagbare wins gold again at the Commonwealth Games. This time it's the women's 200 meters. That's on sports. You join us again.